printing a couple things to
Hello,
hold up.
everyone, and welcome to my show. Well, my guest today is Katie Page. Say something about Katie. Katie is Colorado MUFON State Director. She is a star investigator for MUFON and is the team lead in administrator for MUFON's March team. She is the host of MUFON What's Up radio broadcast on kgradb.com. Can we please welcome Katie to the show? Hello
Thanks,
there.
Bob. Hi there, Bob. Thanks so much for having me. It's a pleasure
Thank
to
you for
be
coming on
here,
the
as
show.
always. Yeah, it's been a little while.
It has. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Just a little correction to the bio here, updated as of December or January 1st of this year. I stepped down as state director just to allow more time. I've been busy out doing investigations and, really honored to be part of History Channel's Beyond Skinwalker. And I just needed to free up a little bit more of my time. So, but
Yeah.
I'm still an active field investigator for Colorado MUFON, and we have such a great group here. So I'm still very much a part of the Colorado MUFON group, but I have stepped down as state director and passed the torch on to Seth Feinstein, who's an awesome guy out here. So he's taken over my
Oh,
duties. But yeah, I had spent time as a young girl between the ages of 9 and 12 on this Colorado ranch called the Rocky Mountain Ranch on Beyond Skinwalker. And we were threatened and warned to never talk about what was happening out there. So I never knew it was investigated, or I never knew anybody knew anything about it until I bought this book here by Colm Kelleher and George Knapp, Hunt for the Skinwalker. And so I joined MUFON in 2012. I purchased this book in 2013, just thinking, it might have some similarities or commonalities to the ranch when I was
yeah.
a young girl. And started reading about the ranch in Colorado. And that's where I first learned that it was ever investigated. So ever since then, it's just been this rabbit hole, as you well know. Once you start diving into all these high strangeness things, it kind of never ends, And so it's just been this long journey of trying to figure out what's going on out there. And I've always wondered how much of it is actual paranormal activity and how much of it was Black Access Project, because it was really close to the Air Force Academy out here in Colorado Springs, Colorado, as well as we have the NORAD station out here, Camp Carson, and in digging and getting all the old files and stuff from the investigations, we have soldiers from Camp Carson out there. So it started I started questioning whether they were doing like MK Ultra type of experiments and things like that. So that's what got me started, is just really investigating what all those strange happenings were when I was a kid. And, it not only affected me, but the whole family and then the whole area is what I come to find out. And I know out there in the UK, you guys have similar areas, just like we do here in
We
Colorado and
do about
Utah.
strangeness. We certainly do, Katie. It's just strange. There's pockets of places around the world where strangeness happen.
Right.
Yeah. Sometimes you can go for, I don't know, 3 or 4 months, nothing.
Yeah.
And when you're not expecting something happens.
Right. And that's what's been really cool about, I think finally this ranch is sort of getting the attention it deserves and being researched and looked at. And these are small communities, and I don't know about there, but here they're kind of tight-lipped, So it's been really great for me to kind of go into these local, bars or pubs or whatever and get to know the locals a little bit, and interviewing some of these old timers that have lived out there for generation after generation after
Oh,
generation. And I
I was
was
going to
just,
say something
yeah.
there when you said about that. When you go to Bempton, nobody talks about it at all
Oh, why do you think that
because,
is?
because the RAF base was used for satanic reasons at one time after it
Oh,
shut. So I think there's a lot of people in the small village was something to do with that. So they won't tell you anything. If you
right.
went into the pub and asked, they'd all look at you
Well, I hope
and
that
they would
starts
say,
changing. Yeah, because it
yeah,
started
it's
to
just
change
this.
here A little bit. I mean, a little bit.
Well, yeah, I wished it would, because we might find more information out about the Air Force base as well, because it's all underground there. And but things have happened up there. You know, when they used it for satanic, did they use it for things to come out of it? You don't know. The farmer who owns the fields up there is not a nice man. If you went
Oh,
on there,
that's
I wouldn't say he'd shoot you, but he'll chase you off.
that's kind of scary. I mean, you have to be really careful when out investigating these places. And, it's something I don't talk a lot about on other podcasts or shows or whatever. But in doing that first episode of Beyond, it had been the first time I was back to the ranch since I was 12 years old. So here we are, you're rolling up on my Jeep. It's dusk, and I was really anxious to get on the property to see what I could remember, the different structures, the barns, the houses, the outbuildings, all that stuff. And I had never met face to face the people that have owned the ranch now for over 30 years. And so cameras rolling, when you see us meeting for the first time on that episode, that's legitimate. Like, we're meeting for the first time, and they really didn't know the whole historical background on the location. And, I have a lot of information that they didn't know about. And quite frankly, I reached out to them right before COVID hit. And I thought, with all this strange information, that I didn't want to just tell them via text or over a phone call. I wanted to meet them face to face, because it's a lot to take in, and they're still actively living there. And I didn't want them to be uncomfortable about the history of their ranch, right? So in meeting them for the first time, I'm sharing with them all this information, and they're sharing with me like photographs and how it looked when they purchased the property and that. And thankfully for me, they were really open to all the unusual things. In fact, had experienced a lot of things themselves, the family that lives there now. But what I did find out is, when they purchased, and you're hearing it live here first, but when they purchased that property, there were satanic stickers and carvings in the trees, and back in the wood line behind the ranch house, there was like an altar, like a cradle. So there were some not so nice things happening back in the late 70s that were satanic, ritualistics in nature. And that scared me, quite honestly, because I'm like, I want to protect myself with love and light and all those things. But it made me wonder, like, what kind of doorways are they opening up? Just like people that mess around with Ouija boards and things like that, you don't know what you're dealing with. I mean, and so that's a little frightening.
Very similar to up there as well, because there's all satanic drawings underneath in the passageways, because it was all underground, the RAF Bempton. But you can understand the farmer. It's his private land, and he's got cows on it now, so he don't want anybody messing with his cows or damaging his cows. So he's got a right to not let people on it anyway. Yeah. So I would advise people never to go on his land. For that reason, really, he's protecting himself as well.
Right.
But that was also satanic underneath.
Right. Is there animal mutilations there as well? Like the mysterious?
Yes. Paul was doing that in 2017. There were sheep being mutilated. 60, 70. I think there was 16, 17, few more in 18. And then the farmer decided, another farmer, he decided to get rid of his sheep because of his losses.
Yeah, right. I mean, out here too, it was cow, horse, sheep, even dog. And what's fascinating too, in getting to know some of these locals now, they had a recent cattle mutilation just last August. So it's still happening out here. Just, from 75 to 78, there were over 400 in Elbert County alone of mutilated animals.
That's a lot.
That's a lot. So
that would so I would say around Bempton area, I should say 60, 78, maybe 90.
That's a lot.
2-year period, but that's just in our area. There were
Wow.
things happening in other counties, should I say, all
Right.
about same time.
Wow. And didn't Paul mention something about was it kangaroo or
There was some cat. We have a small zoo at Sorbet. It's only a small little thing. Anyway, kangaroos in there got killed, and when he looked into it in that year, there were places all over England
wow.
where they all were same. They all got killed,
Wow. It
mutilated,
just
and even
that
in Australia, he rang around quite a few places. Paul did. That's Paul for you, being a good investigator,
yeah.
looking round and finding out why. And he thought, well, that's a bit strange. In our place, in our town, in Briglington, and then elsewhere, another place, and he's plotted them all round it. It was nearly everywhere in England.
Yeah. I have a lot of respect for you and Paul. I mean, you guys get out there and actually travel and look for the answers and do active investigations, and that's hard. It's coming more and more hard to find that nowadays with people sitting behind their laptops and on their cell phones and whatnot. So, it's really cool to see that. I'll actually be headed out at the end of this month to Mount Wilson Ranch, which is also on the series Beyond Skinwalker. And I get to meet, I'm looking forward to meeting the owner of that ranch as well. But, as these series come out, we're learning more and more about the people like Bob Bigelow, who owned the Skinwalker Ranch in Utah, also
Correct.
owned Mount Wilson Ranch. And so,
Ah, did they?
yeah, they did. Bob Bigelow owned both ranches, and what's fascinating about that, Linda Moulton Howe got her start as an investigative journalist out on our ranch, or the ranch of my childhood in Elbert County, Colorado, with the mutilations and that, as she was, covering what was happening out there at the time. And then Dr. Leo Sprinkle, who's a PhD out of Laramie, Wyoming, was with the APRO group at the time, who investigated the ranch property. And so there's photographs of Linda Moulton Howe, Bob Bigelow, Dr. Leo Sprinkle, and numerous others, Kit Green and others, that were actually on Mount Wilson Ranch in 1996. And so I'm like, were they out there just investigating? Do they know more of what than what they're telling us publicly or whatnot?
Correct.
Yeah, yeah.
That's what
So
I think as well, Katie. I think
yeah,
they know more than what
yeah.
we realise. They know 2017 as well. The police got to know about these sheep being killed, and I think they sent, I can't remember if it was 3 officers out with rifles on a night, and they surrounded this field,
Mm-hmm.
and they put a sheep in the middle of it.
Oh, bait.
In the morning, the sheep was killed, and
Oh
they didn't even
no.
see anything.
Wow. That's a compelling. That's compelling. That's interesting.
Didn't see
Are
how.
they are they taking like the organs and the blood and things like that are
I
similar to
tell you what,
cattle with the sheep?
I've noticed a lot of the photos what Paul showed me. There were actually no blood around them,
Right.
none at all.
Right.
They've been cut open, but there were no blood stains. He turned it over and looked around, moved it. It felt warm, as though I think one time he'd passed this field, there was nothing there. He came back, and I think it was a young'un being laid there, and he went, "That's strange. I've just gone that way, come back." And that was killed, and that was cut open, and he felt it, and it was still warm. So
Oh.
he'd only just missed it, whatever it was.
Yeah, that reminds me of an interview. I went to Wyoming to interview a witness. I think I can use her last name. She gave me permission to use her first name, not her last name. So my witness Sheila, but her family kind of pioneered this little town in Elbert County. They go back generations and whatnot. So I went to Wyoming to interview her about her experiences. And right out of high school, she was married in the late 70s, and they owned several hundred acres out in Arama, Colorado. And her husband was out on horseback checking the cows for calves, and there was a recently deceased calf laying on the ground, and he approached it, and it had 4 cuts in a perfect square, like incisions in the top of the
Yeah,
fur. The top of the fur was removed, but the skin was still there. So he gets on his horse, goes back to the ranch house to get my witness Sheila. They drive back in the pickup truck. He said it took him 20-25 minutes to get back to that calf. And in that amount of time, it had been cauterized, blood drain, organs removed. And they said there was no footprints or tracks around the animal, no dust where a helicopter would have flown off, no sounds. They said it felt eerie, as if they were being watched. So to me, that's very similar to what you're describing. Like, you have this short little window of time where this event occurred, yet there's no evidence of anybody being there. How is this happening? It's a really compelling case.
I think Paul said it was as though it had been dropped from the sky.
Yeah, that's what it felt like to them as well.
Tell us a little about Clearview Ranch then.
Yeah, so the Clearview Ranch, or Rocky Mountain Ranch, they called it Clearview, the town, because they didn't want the publicity, or they didn't want people to know where the town was. But it is in Elbert County, Colorado. And like I said, where I thought the activity was kind of isolated on this ranch property, it's actually the whole area of Elbert County at the time, and still active today. And I'll share with you guys just a recent interview I did, which is compelling in a little bit. But
yeah,
one of the very first things that was reported as happening out there were these strange sounds, these hum sounds, and these bangs they would hear underground. And in talking with Paul, you guys have similar reports of these strange sounds as well. Yeah. So it kind of started with that, and it seemed like almost they could never identify what the sounds were or where they came from, but it was reported like when the wind blew, the sound would pick up, and it would get so loud sometimes you couldn't hear yourself talk over it. That's how loud it would get. Then we had cryptid creatures seen out there, these Sasquatches that they called white fuzzies, because they had like this gray hair, not like the dark brown hair.
Right.
And then we had a whole phenomenon, these unmarked black helicopters that were often seen flying on and off properties and whatnot. So that makes you suspicious of, are they connected to the animal mutilations going on at that same time? Then there's the paranormal stuff that was happening out there as well, just different things disappearing, and odd noises and footsteps and cabinets opening. Those, your typical paranormal ghost stories, were happening out there as well. And then the strangest thing that I didn't talk about for a long time, because it just sounds so weird, were these boxes that were seen out there. And I witnessed them, other adults witnessed them, but they would be there and then they wouldn't be there. They emitted like a sound, like a bee sound, and if you approached it, the tone or the frequency of the sound would change. You'd look away, look back, and they would be gone.
Right.
The undersheriff at the time, Bill Wall, witnessed one of these boxes and actually was afraid to approach it. So he goes back and gets an undersheriff, and they go back to approach the box, and it disappeared. He said it almost appeared to go under the ground. One of the things I remember, my sister and I were flipping a Frisbee, and we looked down at our feet, and there was a wet, heavy snow on the ground, but under our feet, it was dry dirt where nothing grew. It supported no vegetation at all. And this was a memory that we had. And then to get the actual APRO documents in the report, they mentioned not one of those circles, but two on the property. And the investigators mentioned that in the snow, there were drops of blood in the snow outside of that snowless circle. So a lot of what I've uncovered in my research in the reports was really cool for me and my older sister to kind of go, oh, look at, here it is. Like it's in black and white. It's not just this vague memory anymore. That it was actually investigated and reported. And they measured that circle, and it was 75 feet in diameter, that circle.
Right.
So, and now that's kind of a location where Beyond Skinwalker is really kind of zeroing in on and doing testing and things like that. I can't share too much until after the episodes air, but I can't say, you have to sign those non-disclosures and that, but I can't say what they're coming up with is really compelling. And people like to ask me, like, do they script it? Are they in? They don't. Like, for these 2 episodes we filmed for a week and a half straight, it was like, and nothing, not one time have they ever told me like, hey, say this or say that, or nothing. It's always really cool to see how they end up editing all that footage, because they take so much of it.
Yeah, because it's same as so you can go we can go to Bempton all them months and nothing happens, but something
Right.
might happen, and then we go for a. And then if somebody new comes up, and I mean new, there a guy came from Blackpool, and we're walking down towards the seafront, and he went, "Is them orange lights what appear?" We said, "Yeah." So he got to a platform, and he managed to film them. Paul filmed them. And I thought, he's never seen these before, this guy. Never seen anything in his life. And because he was new, they appeared for him. It makes
Almost
you,
like,
when you look at it, you think they've got some, they must have some intelligence, these lights.
yeah, no, I believe they do. Yeah. I
They
mean,
can show whenever they want to show.
right, right. Do you guys do like the CE5, or do you ever try to like communicate or call in anything? And if so, do you ever get results with that?
No, we've tried it a couple of times, but when we get up there, we try other things. We put his meters on, and we try a bit of different
Hmm.
things.
Right. And that's what's frustrating too. I think a lot of the times these phenomenon, they're hard to repeat. So they're hard to study scientifically, you know, because I've come in with a very skeptical view of things. I come in thinking this is a lot of what we're doing, secret technologies, secret, like they had a lot of nefarious black access projects going on in the late 70s. I mean, this started actually early 70s, late 60s, even after World War II, right? So they're
Yeah,
experimenting with all types of weird things. And so I'm like, how much of that is this, that they're still trying to keep covered? And I think that's part of what's going on too. Like right when we think we're making some progress with congressional hearings and, you know, whistleblower protection and whatnot, it's like, oh, wait a minute, we're going to give you like 2 steps forward, but we're going to take 3 steps back and close the lid on it all over again. Because I still think they don't want these secrets out, because I do believe that they were, you know, affecting other people's lives in not such positive ways. And that's a liability issue. So,
yeah, we've even seen strange lights appear. I saw. I was on one of the what we call the bird platform, because don't forget, up there it's the bird sanctuary as well up there at Benton where we go. So a lot of people don't even look in the sky. So
yeah,
if someone appeared, they wouldn't even see it because they're
right.
looking down at gannets and things like that. And I was up there with Paul and his daughter, and we were looking over, and she said, "What's that white light over there?" I said, I think it's a post, and I think there's a sticker on it. Anyway, I
Hmm.
looked again, and it wasn't. I put my
Oh,
torch on it, and it was a square light appeared off the ground,
oh, a
uh,
box.
and about, well, what did I say, about 200 meters away.
Wow.
And then I put my torch on it, and it dropped to the ground and disappeared. So
That's
Paul
a
said to me, and it was still quite light. It wasn't dark at that point. And he went over and I went, "Stop there, Paul." And he went, "Well, there's nothing here. There's no post. There's nothing. How can a square light appear and then drop and then
and then
gone?"
disappear, like
Yeah, vanished.
like it went into the ground, just like what
Yeah,
was
yeah,
reported out here. What
yeah,
is that?
yeah,
I mean, that's amazing that you had such a similar experience like
yeah.
that.
There's been, and it wasn't long ago when Paul saw a strange, like an orb, blue light in middle
Hmm.
of a field appear.
Right. And
He was with another guy up there, and they said, "Look at that over there," and he just appeared and then went out, light gone.
right. That's incredible. The
But when you look back, has it always been there?
right. That's
Has it
something I
always
question
appeared?
too. I don't know if you're familiar with Skinwalkers at the Pentagon. It's sort of like Hunt for the Skinwalker second book, but in here they talk about the hitchhiker effect, and they talk about these blue orbs in here, which when I started going back and investigating the ranch, I had an experience with that. And thank goodness I journaled about it. And I want to tell your listeners, and I'm sometimes bad about doing this myself, so I should listen to my own advice. But when something happens, you should jot down the date, the time, and in much detail as you can, because, give a few days, you're not going to remember all the details. But luckily for me, I had journaled about this particular incident, and my kids at the time were into building Legos, and I had a red bucket of Legos in my bedroom that was in the corner, and that bucket fell over and it woke me up out of my sleep. And I look in the corner of the bedroom, and there was like a blue basketball sized light orb. And I'm looking at the smoke detector and the cable box light, and I'm trying to debunk whatever this light is. And my ex-husband now, but at the time I'm like, hey, wake up. Wake up, wake up, wake up. And he saw it for a second. And as he's kind of focusing in on it, it kind of just did this. It just went, whoom. And they mention these in this book, and they say, don't assume it's not our own technology, but whatever it was felt intelligent. And as this is happening, the people that lived behind us had like an auto light on their back porch, and that light was going on and off why that was happening. So it was a really strange event. It only happened that one time. It's never happened again. So again, you hear these things. A question. I love questions. Katie, do you have any idea the reason for the animal mutilations? That's an excellent question. And, I always like to tell people there's been pioneers that have been researching this phenomenon for 40 years, decades now, since the 70s. And, Christopher O'Brien and Chuck Zukowski and Linda Howe. And so I've had the privilege in kind of picking their brains a little bit on like what's happening. And there's different ideas or theories out there of what's going on. First of all, I still think it's very much an unsolved mystery. It's not like we're seeing like spent needles on the ground or evidence of human tampering. There's too many, like you just said, there's too many cases that just have very unusual circumstances, like, fall, like almost like they're lifted and they fall and they're found in weird positions or under logs or in just weird kind of circumstances like that. So it's very much an unsolved mystery, but I've heard things like, here we have the Area 51 that most people are familiar with, but there's also right near Area 51 is this so-called S4. And, I've had people tell me, now I don't know if there's any truth to this or not, but if they have captured live aliens, that they will absorb nutrients or food through their skin. Have you heard this before? And so I don't know if they're taking, like the blood of these animals to absorb into their skin as nutrients, or I don't know what the answers are, but I know people like to joke, why didn't they take the T-bone or the fillet? I mean, they're taking soft tissue, and I'm not saying all of it is, some of it could be our military testing for whatever's in the ground, the waters, mad cow disease. I'm not the expert on mutilations, but I just know that, when I've talked to these few people that is still very much unresolved, and they don't know the reason why these animals are being mutilated like they are. And it makes me wonder too about just wild animals like elk and deer and others as well. Are those being taken? And what I was going to share with you is just recently this event, and this is what the witness drew for me. I don't know if you guys can see this.
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah, this is an elk hunter that lives out there in Elbert County, and he said it was approximately November of 2021. This was a daytime sighting. He was out elk hunting, and what's fascinating about talking with this witness, even to this day, he's in the middle of the daytime. He said there's areas of wooded, like ponderosa pine, like these cluster of forest, where he just gets a really eerie, bad feeling, and he won't even go into those places. And this is a tough guy. He's a firefighter, like a very credible guy. Like he's a tough dude. And he's like, I'm not going into that place, because he just gets this bad, eerie feeling. Well, one day he was out elk hunting and he spots this. He said it was like two, bunt cake pans.
Yeah.
One on top of another, and there was this orange red glow coming from the forest. And he said one was spinning clockwise, the other was spinning counterclockwise. It didn't make any sound whatsoever, and he saw this thing pretty close up. Like, there's this machine basically, and he said right here that it was 4 to 5 feet in diameter, 6 to 8 feet off the ground. It was very metallic and shiny with a red glow. And he said he sees this thing. He looks away for a second, looks back, and it was gone, but the red glow was still there for a short time, but it just vanished. He didn't see it take off. He didn't see it go into it just was gone. Just boom. So that makes you wonder, are these things cloaking? What is this? Is it going interdimensionally under the ground? But to have this kind of activity still going on out there with the mutilations and that, I mean, it's still active to this day.
I'm going to say it's strange you're talking about that. I was up there another night with Paul it was daylight with his daughter, Mick. I think there were 4 of us up there. And I got my camera and I said to Paul, I said, is that kestrel up there, that bird up there? So I got my camera up there and taking photo, and I just looked across on the side of the, like a hill coming down there, and I saw this black object. So I took a photo of it. And I said, Paul said, what are you looking at? I said, look at this. I said, what's that black object on the side of the hill? When we looked, it
was gone?
Totally gone, completely gone in 2 seconds. So Paul walked right over there. I said, stop there. He went, there's no tracks, nothing here at all.
Wow.
You can see around the corner, top of the hill, nothing's been here. Did I just catch something? I don't know. Did the wormhole open up? Did something open up? And it came through and I just happened to take a photo of it. I'll have to send it you.
Yeah, I would love to see it. I mean,
I'll tell you what, when we're talking about another sighting, me and Paul went up the side of the camp, and on the way back, he got a phone call to say, this guy said, I want to tell you about my daughter. She's seen a cigar-shaped object in the sky. He said, all right. Anyway, he said, I'll remember all this and I'll ring you back later. On the way back down, so we're on top of cliffs now. That bird platform nearest one is about, 500 yards away. And he said, can you see them lights out at sea? Oh. I said, I can't. I said, I'm waiting for get my eyes lasered. Anyway, he ran off. I got to the platform. He said, can you see them out there? There was a triangle of lights over in the sea. So he watched them for about, half an hour. And we both turned. I don't know why we did it together. We both turned right and we saw a rectangle object.
Oh, cool.
Must have been about 500 yards by 100 yards. It was like a trailer downside of the cliff, red in colour.
It doesn't seem very aerodynamic.
It was
these
side of the cliff.
Wow.
What project? You couldn't even project from out to sea to put that light on there. And it was vibrant red.
Wow.
And it was there and then it just gone.
Do you think that perhaps they're living under the water?
Well, we
in and out
think
of the water?
they are. I've always said that. I've always said I'm sure there's a base out
underwater.
Yeah, in the sea, in the North Sea, because there's an area out there where boats are not allowed to go because it says it's a submarine training section. Just makes you wonder. And every time they've gone over there, the equipment's gone, the dials have gone airwire.
Right. Yeah, a lot of magnetic anomalies, yeah.
And planes have gone missing over Flamborough Head. That's not far away from Bempton. I think there's been about 20 gone over the 20-odd years.
Like another Bermuda Triangle or something.
And when Paul talked to somebody from the Home Office, he slipped out and he said, that's what we call the the Flamborough Bermuda Triangle.
Yeah, sounds like it.
Yeah.
Those magnetic
And he said,
anomalies.
"Oh, don't believe this guy, what he said." He said, "Did he really say that to me?"
Right. Yeah. And that's something that I've discovered a lot of these places here in the States, like Skinwalker Ranch and Marley Woods and Bradshaw Ranch in Sedona, Arizona. So we have Utah, Arizona,
No
Missouri,
question here as well.
Colorado. But these places, they all ping the charts at being highly magnetic areas. If you look at the magnetic maps, so they're all really highly magnetic. A lot of them have aquifers or water underground. Hi, Allison. And also there's certain geological types of rocks like granite and quartz and limestone and things that they have in common. So I wonder if, and you mentioned like this activity kind of seems
That's where
to
we are at top
come
of
in
the cliffs. It
waves.
is limestone. It's all
Yeah.
limestone around that area.
Yeah, limestone, water, and magnetism. And then I believe it was James Keenan talked about this cycle of like solar flares. So when you have more magnetism coming from the sun, does that increase the activity? You know, if we could just graph out when things get heated and when things quiet down, is it following, you know, our phases of the moon or our solar flares or what? I think there's some science there that we can look at,
Yeah,
right?
I do as
And
well.
yeah,
About the
it's just sort
moon,
of like, yeah,
when it's
this
a full moon and when it's not a full moon. And
right.
I always write everything in my diary when I've
That's
gone with
smart.
Paul. I write it in my diary because Paul might say to me, "What date was that again?" I can
Yeah.
just look it up, say time and date.
Yeah, that's so smart. And if you're lazy like me and you don't always want to keep a notebook, you can just hit your recorder and just record it in your phone. Yeah. So Allison's asking what my most scariest experience is, and that was a night that we were celebrating. So the people that owned the ranch when I was a young girl, it was a group of adults. My mother was dating the gentleman that owned the ranch, and he had 3 sons. And it was the boys' mother's birthday. We were there celebrating her birthday. It was really late at night, and that hum noise started up really loud. And it was sort of like by this point, we knew when that hum started up, something was going to happen. Just everybody gets uneasy, and we were hanging out in the boys' bedroom, and the hum started up, all the power in the house went out. And at that point, I saw, like, I describe it as being brighter than the sun light outside of the ranch window of the boys' bedroom. And as that's happening, and all the power's out, so there's no electricity running through the house, this disembodied electrical voice came out of, it sounded like everywhere in the house. And that's where the threat and the warning came from. And what's cool is in the briefing document from APRO, when the investors came out there, they had the quote of that night. And for my sister and I, it was a really cool validation because in there were the exact words that were spoken. And it basically said, "Attention, we've allowed you to remain. We've interfered with your lives very little. Do not cause us to take action which you will regret. Your friends will be instructed to remain silent concerning us." And my mom took that very seriously and told my sister and I, don't ever talk about what's going on out there. So that to me was the scariest night. And that same night was the night that I went paralyzed for a short while. I couldn't speak. My mom and sister were like, "What did you eat?" Like they were trying to figure out what was wrong with me. I'm 12 years old and I'm like on the floor, unable to speak. And then later, a couple hours later, I got the tunnel vision and got my full-blown migraine headache, my first full-blown migraine headache that night. So that was a really, really terrifying night. And after that point, I started seeing these shadow figures in the room. All that kind of paranormal stuff was going on. I always slept with Big Sister, until she moved out. She moved away on me. But while she was there, I relied on Big Sister for protection and that. So that was the scariest night for me.
Where I'm living, where I'm sat here now, I've got an easy chair where you can put my feet up. And one night, I've got my feet up, and an alien head appeared in the mirror right opposite me.
Yikes! What did it look like?
It just
typical.
just a round, strange head
Yeah.
appeared, and I'm thinking, what's that? So I'm thinking, how's it got in that mirror? Not thinking it's got to be at back of me on that wall.
Wow.
Outside it door there. There. Where that little picture is up there.
Uh-huh.
I'll show you in a minute. That was it. That's what it looked like.
Oh,
Can you
wow.
see that?
Yeah, I got to put on my glasses here. It looks like.
An head there.
Oh,
That
yeah.
was in the mirror back of me. When I measure it, it's 5'7" tall.
Okay. Like a tall gray.
Yeah. And
Wow.
that's what I could see. So what I did, I cut that out so I could see it, and then I put it up there so I could see the reflection in the mirror to see how high it was.
Yeah.
I
Smart.
told Paul about it. I said, "Bloody hell!" I said, "I can't believe it." But it's Paul's seen the aliens down below where he lives as well. I've
Yeah.
seen shadow people come out of that wall through in front of the TV, go into that wall. But right at the beginning, when Paul bought the house, he didn't. If he found a load of letters in these bags, and he burnt them all. And he found out later she was into spiritualism.
Mm.
But them
See,
letters might have meant something. And, he said to me, why did I burn them?
yeah.
And then he'd only just moved in. There were a knock at the door, and it was, I forget his name now. Look, he used to do Exorcist. He knocked on
Oh.
Paul's door and he said, I just want to talk to you about this house. Paul went,
Mm.
oh, come in a minute. He said, I want to go to top room. Will you come with me? This is where I am now.
Oh, no.
Yeah, yeah. So he
Hopefully
came
it's
up
all
and he said
cleared
to
and
Paul,
cleansed.
and Paul had got 4 daughters,
Hmm.
and he said, I wouldn't want one of your daughters sleeping in this room. I want to exercise it. And Paul went, that's it. He didn't realize, but I think it was Sarah had followed him up. So he said,
Mm.
I think that's enough. Let's have you out.
Yeah.
So
Wait.
something must have been happening in this house.
Right. I mean, you have to be careful,
Tom
like I
Willis,
said.
that's it.
Yeah.
Reverend Tom Willis, I think it was.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I
He's
don't.
died now, unfortunately, Tom, but Paul
Right.
wants to look into his work. He was the exorcist for the UK then.
Right. Yeah, it's important to always ground yourself and protect yourself and think positive thoughts and have good intentions and all that, because somebody in the chat asked, how old were yeah, that how old were you when you started taking an interest in the phenomenon? Well, taking an interest in it started in the late 90s for me. I got really kind of what set it in motion for me was the hit series Ghost Hunters. It kind of sparked my interest and started me asking all those questions like, what was all that? Are these ghosts? Are these UFOs? Are these aliens or what? So it kind of started in the 90s, but how old I was when the phenomenon, I remember things happening to me fairly young with different types of activities. As a very young child, 5, 6, 7 years old. And what is fascinating in talking with my mom about it, because I do believe a lot of these phenomena can run in families. And I learned that my grandfather, my dad's father, who was in the Navy, my dad was in the Navy as well, but in Lake Geneva, Wisconsin, he had a sighting over Lake Como of an oblong shaped craft, which he reported, and it was investigated by J. Allen Hynek over Lake Como in Wisconsin in the early 60s.
All
This is
right.
before I was even born. So, to have my grandfather experience something and then my family and I, when I was very, very young, had two similar sightings going back from Wisconsin to Illinois. We lived in Illinois at the time. That's where I was born, of two oblong shaped crafts also. So that's kind of those things you talk around, we would bring up sometimes at holidays or Thanksgiving or whatever. And you're talking about, what was that, I wonder? So those were very early experiences, but it's not like we talked about them all the time. It was like once a year we'd bring it up, kind of thing. And then, fast forward to the 90s, I started watching Ghost Hunter. That kind of sparked my, like, what was all that? And then fast forward to 2012, joined MUFON, all that stuff. And it's just been ongoing ever since. Another thing that was happening out there in Elbert County were these strange unidentified black helicopters. And what's crazy about that is there's all these articles that talk about they were like chasing and menacing people. Like they weren't like hiding and trying to be secretive. They were. So for me, I always question, like, why were they there? Was it chicken or egg? Were they trying to research what was going on? Were they causing what was going on? And that. So that's another phenomenon that was happening out there at the time. And then something just recently that I uncovered, November 11th, this is the FOIA request from Kirkland Air Force Base, but November 11th over Elbert County in Dr. Leo Sprinkle's files, there were two A-7D interceptors that in his notes said were in pursuit of a UFO. And these two interceptors crashed. Both pilots ejected, both pilots survived. But when I was down at David Marler's outside of Albuquerque doing some historical research, I came across a really cool document out of Falconbridge, Ontario in Canada at their NORAD station. And on the exact same day, November 11th, 1975, they were watching something anomalous on their radar. And this anomalous object was sitting at 26,000 feet in altitude, and it would shoot up just straight up to 72,000 feet in altitude. They're watching this thing for quite some time. It's also being observed by military personnel on the ground, several anomalous objects, not just one, by civilians and by 7 different police officers. So they're watching this thing. So they decide, we need to scramble some jets. So they scramble 2 F-106 Delta Dart interceptors out of Selfridge, Michigan, over the Great Lakes. Because as they're watching this on radar, it went straight up, but it was also moving 25 to 30 miles south of the base in Falconbridge. And what's fascinating about that is both of these interceptors, the 2 A-7Ds in Elbert County, Colorado, and the 106 Delta Darts, they were scrambled after unknown objects on that very same day, November 11th, 1975. So, we have NORAD, the NORAD station here in Colorado Springs and the NORAD station in Falconbridge, Canada. So obviously they were communicating with each other. So here they are watching this anomalous UFO, and they admitted, the United States Air Force admitted scrambling these Delta Darts in pursuit of a UFO. It made the front page of National Enquirer. And what was so cool, so I come across this document, and Dave Marler, who has this wonderful historical archive center, he's like, I think I have that very copy of the National Enquirer. And he goes over to his file cabinet, and boom, there it is. I'm like, I can't believe you have that. So, something's going on. They're watching something in our skies, and I do believe they're quite aware of anomalous activities. Now,
well, I know at the same time, I think it was 2017, there was some American, like a wagon with a dish on back. I forget what they called them now. And they were stationed about 5 different places around Briglington and the surrounding area. And I think they were looking for something in the sky. And it was the same time when we saw them lights under the sea, me and Paul. And that red object on side at cliff. It's like a radar dish on the back of these vehicles. I forget the name, but thing now. And that was the same time when we saw all these different activities happening in 2017, when they were seen. Oh, when that bloke rang up and said, my daughter's seen that cigar-shaped object, and she said she's seen a strange vehicle with a micro dish on back of it.
That's fascinating. I haven't heard that before. I'm going to have to keep my eyes out
I'll
for
tell you about that.
similar things. But what that says to me is who somebody is aware of these things in our skies. Like
Yes,
they
of
know
course they
it.
are.
Yeah, and even in Dr. Leo Sprinkle's files from the late 70s, it says that NORAD and Air Force Colonel Head said bluntly to forget about it, to shut up, that they have directives to handle both UFOs and Bigfoot. So that makes me wonder, are the Sasquatch and these craft connected? And through the research I've done
Well, it
and
just makes
reading
you wonder,
others'
doesn't it?
research, yeah, I think some of them might be,
What is their agenda?
right, right. Yeah.
I've sent you a photo of that. Well, I
Oh,
took that photo on the side of the hill. I've sent you that photo. I'm just trying to find that vehicle. Oh, it's there. I'll send it
oh,
you
did you send it
in
in
the
Facebook?
messenger.
Okay, let me open that back up. I try to close my tabs so the connection's better because
Oh,
I know
not letting me
sometimes we could
send it
freeze.
you.
Oh, here it is. I have it. Gotcha. Got it. Oh, look at that.
With a dish on back. And they were stationed in about 5 different places surrounding a 30-mile radius.
This one came out black. That's interesting.
Oh, yeah. I know. It's not letting me.
Mysterious.
But the photo on side of the hill, that's what I took.
Wow.
That black object.
Yeah, I'm so excited to have the opportunity to go meet you in person and meet Paul in person, and I'm
Oh,
hoping to
brilliant.
get to go out there with you guys and research some of these areas because the similarities between what you guys have going on and what we have going on here is just parallel to one another.
Yeah,
So
because, you talk about Skinwalker Ranch, but
yeah,
you don't want to talk about Benton. The things what have happened up there over the years is just out of this world.
yeah, right. And what the heck? Do you mentioned military bases close by? So do you guys believe that some of this is secret projects where you are as well, or do you think it's
Well,
all?
that was Paul will tell you more about the military base where it was used for during the Cold War. It's vacant now, like it's all gone. The farmers boarded it up so nobody can get in it now. People were trying to get in to go down and take photos of satanic drawings and all that, and but it stretches for miles,
Right.
the corridors.
Yeah.
But we don't know how far it's gone because they blocked it up in places so you can't get through.
Yeah.
But they reckon it can go for about 2 or 3 miles.
Yeah. Do you guys have specific? I mean, do you have permission to go certain places, or is this places that are open to the public?
No, they're not. No, that where
Okay.
where the base is private land.
Right. Right.
The farmer bought it off the MOD,
Oh.
but where we go, it's a bird sanctuary, but it's a public right of way, so you
Okay.
can walk on it.
Oh, nice. Nice. And I am an avid bird watcher. I love my birds. I'm up here in the Rocky Mountains.
It's
And
one of the best.
yeah.
It's one of the best places in England to go to bird watch.
Oh, good. Well, I'll enjoy that. If nothing else, I'll love watching the birds.
Oh, I'm sure you will do. I'm sure you will do.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
and then there's Staxton's World Radar Station. That's not far away, and that's working. That one is.
Oh, cool.
That's tracks anything in the sky,
Yeah.
but
And
you can't get there. You
Right.
can't get inside there at all.
right.
It's all
And
cordoned off.
yeah, you have to know that they're watching these things. I wanted to mention something that happened that first night of season 1, episode 1 at Beyond Skinwalker. So it was that first night back, dusk, so it gets dark, and they're like, "Okay, Katie, put on the headlamp. Here's a flashlight." And we had an unexpected blizzard, so the snow's coming down like
Oh, God.
hard and heavy, and we're trouncing around up there, and they're trying to, show me where you saw that box. And I'm, trying to go by my memory, like, here's the silo, here's where the old barn was. And we go over the barbed wire fence, and I have the camera crew behind me, and I'm taking them back to the tree line where I saw the box. And in the blanket of snow, out of nowhere, it's like nothing, just this blanket of snow. And then all of a sudden you see these bipedal large footsteps going for, I would say, 10 to 12 feet, one in front of the other with these big strides. And then they disappear, and there's this blanket of snow, and then they reappear again for another maybe 8 feet, and then disappear again, as if something came up from under the ground, walked, disappeared, came up, walked, and disappeared again.
Oh.
It wasn't deer, it wasn't elk, it looked like just these big. So, and they got that on film, and I was so excited. That actually made the episode, and you can't see it as clearly as I could see it, live there in person. Yeah, but I'm like, it's as if something was curious as to what we're doing out there, came up, looked around, and went back under. It makes me wonder if there isn't an interdimensional phenomenon that's happening at these locations.
Yeah, it just makes you wonder, doesn't it?
Yeah. It was so cool. I'm like, I can't believe that just happened, and that you guys caught it on camera. Like, that was the coolest thing. Yeah.
What a great thing is that to have.
Yeah. I was amazed.
We're not far off finishing. Where can people get your book?
You could go to katiepage.net. So it's KATIEPAIGE. It's page with an I.net. And you can, there's a lot of information out there. I even posted like all the old newspaper articles from the ranch from back in the day. And if you go to the research tab, there's a lot of cool links that people can check out, different drone links and just investigative tools that have helped me through the years as a field investigator and that. So those are there as well. And upcoming events are there. So, and there's a link to the book there.
You're going to be at the Awakening Conference.
I know.
February the 17th in Bolton.
That is so exciting. I can't wait. I'm just looking forward to that and meeting you and Paul.
Alison I can guarantee Alison will be there.
All right. I can't wait to meet you, Alison. That's going to be awesome.
All right. Alex is going to be there because he's taking me. Diana will be there. She's in the chat room because they all live over that area in Lancashire.
Well, I can't wait.
We're in Yorkshire. They're in Lancashire. So a lot of them will be going.
Oh, I can't wait to meet all of you guys. Let's have a lunch or a dinner or a drink or something.
We'll have a great time.
Yeah, that's gonna be fun.
I haven't been to Bolton one yet. I used to go. I've been to Manchester last year. Year before, I went to Blackpool to the Awakening conferences. So I've been to quite a few over years to meet everybody.
Yeah. Well, hopefully we can get you to the States too. I'd love to have you guys out at some of these high strangeness ranches as well. I think Paul was mentioning he's never been here, so it's like about time you get out here.
I think he's been offered to go loads of times, but he's quite a normally person, is Paul. He likes to be on his own sometimes in his shed.
Right.
Diane just said in the chat room, yes, I'll be there as well.
Oh, good. All right. We're going to have a whole group of us.
So most what go in my chat room, we usually go to the conferences.
That's great. I'm looking so forward to that.
Oh, I'm sure. And I think we're booked into the same hotel.
All right. I know we have so much to learn from each other with all the research and investigating you both do. And so I'll try to pack all this stuff, I mean, just cool stuff. And we can find time to sit and share and go over some of our theories.
Oh, definitely.
What's happening.
Definitely. Well, it's not long, really, is it? What, just over a month away?
Oh, no, I'm going to the one later. I'll be at the one later this summer.
Oh, you're right.
So, yeah. So I'm like a month away. I'm not ready. No, yeah. I think end of August.
In August, is that going to be Bolton or Manchester? I wonder.
Manchester, I believe.
It's lovely in Manchester. It's massive in Manchester.
Well, I hope you'll all be
Really
at that.
massive building.
I hope you'll be at that one too.
Oh, we'll be. Yeah,
Okay.
we'll be.
Okay. Good.
Yeah.
Good. Good.
Yeah,
Good.
we always like your conferences.
Oh,
I
good.
enjoy. It's nice to meet people
Yeah.
who you've had on your radio, and if they're speaking, it's quite nice to meet up.
Right. That's my favorite
What,
part is getting to hear other people's experiences, because the more people that we get to talk to and hear what's happened to them, the more dots we connect. So, I love that part the best. So,
yeah, I do.
yeah.
I do.
Yeah.
What are you doing rest of the day then?
Well, I'm doing some work around the house. I'm starting a new podcast, so I've been working on that. It's called Phones in the Microwave, and that'll be coming up in March.
Oh, lovely.
Actually, yeah, people are like, "Why phones in the microwave?" I actually just got this little toy microwave here, but basically, a microwave serves as a Faraday cage, so Big Brother can't listen into your secret conversations. Just don't
I
actually
like it.
Just don't actually cook the phone. You don't want to start,
No, I know.
explode. Little disclaimer. But so I've been looking at old historical magazines. I have just a huge collection of them. So I've been I'm doing a section called Reheating Old Articles, and I'm looking at any high strangeness articles from the 60s and 70s and kind of reading those and doing a breakdown of those. So I'll be doing some of that, and then later tonight I'll be doing Spaced Out Radio till 1 a.m. here in the States. So we'll have a really late Friday night.
Sounds like it as well.
Yeah.
I think has Paul been on your show? I think I'd say.
Yes. I'd love to have you on, Bob.
Yeah, I'll have to come on because I had the Men in Black to come and see me as well.
Ooh, I'd love to hear about that.
2017 as well.
Wow.
So I can talk about that and other things.
Yeah, I'd love to have you on. And then of course I do the KGRA MUFON What's Up show on Tuesday nights. So busy doing that as well, and research, and
You're
still
a very
working on
busy
that.
lady.
Yeah, still working on that second book, collaborating all the ranch data for the ranch book. So,
yeah.
Working on that too. Yeah, stay very, very busy.
I know you are. You are. So thank you to Katie. Thank you to everybody in the chat room, and thank you for all the messages.
Yeah, thank you all.
Questions
I look forward to seeing
all the
you
questions
out there.
for Katie. It's been good.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, Bob. I appreciate it.
Yeah,
and we'll see you this summer.
In the summer, yes, in Manchester, more than likely.
Yeah,
we'll have a great time. And more than likely, we'll be in the same hotel.
Yep. Looking forward to it. So have a
Thank
great
you.
weekend. Have a great weekend, everybody.
I will do, yes. We'll be out this weekend, me and Paul, sometime.
Oh, nice. Awesome.
All being well.
Stay safe.